We've won 1 out of 6 trophies on our quest to complete the International Hexagon Challenge. Now we're targeting our second, the World Cup. Having just won the Africa Cup of Nations with Ivory Coast, I think we could go quite far. As AFCON champions, we're placed in Pot 1, so we avoid all of these international heavyweights in the group stage. Pot 2 has a real mix of teams. If we could get Ireland, that would be a dream. But instead we've been given Uruguay, who will be tough to beat. From Pot 3 I'm hoping we get Canada or Iran, but instead we're up against Serbia, who are another strong side. From Pot 4 I would love to get Honduras, who of course were the country we managed before moving to Ivory Coast. But the dream is crushed when we get Panama instead. If we want to make it out of the group, we have to beat one of Uruguay or Serbia, and that is going to be really tricky. So to test ourselves, I went ambitious in our pre-tournament friendlies. We suffered a 3-2 defeat when we travelled to Ecuador to try and help prep for Uruguay. But we did beat Switzerland 3-1 in our prep match for Serbia. So at least we finished the friendlies on a high. I'm taking a gamble against Panama, playing the second string team. And as you can see from the tactics screen, I took the screenshot after that match. Because Drisa Kamara was given a straight red card early in the game. Luckily for us, our 10-man second string team were good enough to win. Karim Konate scored our first before Hamad Traore doubled the lead. Tanguy Nianzou scored from a corner to win our opening game of the tournament 3-0. At the same time, Serbia beat Uruguay 3-0 as well. We switched back to our first string squad, hoping they'd have enough energy to beat a tired Serbia, but Mitrovic gave the Serbs the lead early on. However, we pounced on a defensive mistake just before half-time to level the scores before Datro Fofana scored his second of the game on the hour mark to take the lead. But Serbia found an equaliser 10 minutes from time to draw the match 2-2. Uruguay thrashed Panama 4-1, meaning it's winner takes all in the final group stage game, where we're up against a very strong Uruguay side. The South Americans had the first chance of the match, passing the ball through to Matias Arezzo, who put his shot in the back of the net. Shortly afterwards, we came on the attack down the near side, the ball finding the feet of Adingra, whose deflected shots beat the keeper. But the keeper then did make an incredible save to deny Amad Diallo's free kick, before watching a headed effort over the crossbar from another free kick routine. At the break, the scores are level, which actually works for us. As it stands, we're qualifying from the group. A second goal would give it a lot of breathing room though, so it was agonising to see Datro Fofana hit the crossbar and another effort go just over the top from a set-piece routine. So when Uruguay messed up at the back and gave us the ball, we knew we had to capitalise. We found a defence-splitting pass through to Singo, whose low cross hit a defender and bounced into the back of the net. So from here we sat back and looked to waste as much time as possible to see the game out, putting bodies on the line to stop Uruguay from scoring an equaliser. They had multiple chances to score, but somehow, every time they just couldn't get the ball across the line. Until they did. Matias Arezzo scoring a wonderful goal in the 95th minute. But it was too little, too late. We draw 2-2 and qualify from the group in second place. And that sets us up against Ecuador in the second round, who of course beat us in a pre-tournament friendly. So I want revenge. But the game didn't start well when Ousmane Diomande turned the ball into his own net 25 minutes in. But moments before half-time, Frank Karamoko got us back on level terms. Then Amad Diallo scored a wonderful effort through a crowd of people to give us the lead. But in the 91st minute, Ecuador got themselves an equaliser. So we thought we were heading to extra time, until Hamad Traore was in the right place at the right time to make it 3-2 in the 92nd minute and send us through to the round of 16. Here we've been drawn against the USA, where the winner takes on Serbia after they beat Italy in extra time. But Folarin Balogun scored for the USA 37 seconds into the match, and then the US grabbed a second goal from a corner 7 minutes in. It took a long time for us to get back in the game, but early in the second half, we were given a lifeline when Datro Fofana was brought down in the penalty area and the referee pointed to the spot. Datro went on to score, getting us back in the game. But Wilfred Singo was then sent off for a second yellow card, and being reduced to 10 men was just too much. We lost 2-1 in the round of 16 and crash out of the World Cup. To be fair, I don't think anyone was really expecting us to go on to win the World Cup with Ivory Coast. We just had to win AFCON with them, and that's what we did. France went on to win the World Cup, beating Germany in the final. And this is where things get exciting, because there are now lots of really good jobs available, including the France job, as Thomas Tuchel has resigned following his World Cup victory. Now, you might think I'm crazy for saying this, but my preference is actually South Korea. That's because the Asian Cup takes place in 6 months' time, and surely South Korea are one of the favourites to win that. If we can win AFCON and the Asian Cup within 12 months of each other, that would be huge. But they said no to me, and I'm actually a little bit shocked by that. I mean, who wouldn't want me as their manager? And at this point, it's now just England and New Zealand left available. And England also rejected me. So now I don't really know what to do. Other than ask you very politely to subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 250,000 subscribers, which is just absolutely crazy. So if you've not pressed that subscribe button yet, I will love you forever if you do. It feels sensible to stay in a job. So we've played 4 AFCON qualifiers at the start of the 2030-31 season. Then we witnessed Iraq win their second Asian Cup in a row, with South Korea knocked out in the second round. I promise you I'm not bitter, but I reckon I could have done a better job than that. I would have won it for them. Australia also lose in the round of 16, and Japan lost in the quarterfinals. As a result, both jobs are now up for grabs, so I applied for both. And they both wanted me to take the job. But because Japan are 16th in FIFA rankings, I feel they present a better chance to win the Asian Cup. So we're heading to Japan.
Access granted.
Their star player is 21-year-old left winger Niki Tabita, who plays for PSG. He's supported by 30-year-old Takefusa Kubo, who's a great playmaker, but might not be around for the next World Cup or Asian Cup. So my hopes are pinned on striker Makoto Azuma, who plays currently in Saudi Arabia, but looks like the ideal striker to score a hatful of goals. In fact, I've actually picked a very young Japanese team so we can get them to gel nicely together over the next 4 years, ready for the Asian Cup, when they're all going to be in and around their primes. But after carefully curating my team for about 90 minutes, the under-23 coach took them all to play and registered them in his squad before I could register mine. So I just used what my assistant manager recommended instead, which was a bunch of old guys. So my first game in charge was a friendly against Morocco, and thanks to an own goal, plus Tabita scoring late on, we won the match 2-0. The friendly against Senegal was trickier though. They played better football than Morocco and earned themselves a 1-1 draw. But because this wasn't the squad that I wanted, it didn't really feel like my debut. One place I do have control over my squad though is on Sorare, which is the largest fantasy football game that I have ever come across. They're running a free-to-play competition called Best of Europe, and it has some once-in-a-lifetime prizes available, such as VIP tickets to El Clasico, Napoli VIP experiences, Premier League and Bundesliga tickets, and signed Zinedine Zidane jerseys. To enter, all you have to do is pick 5 players for your 5-a-side team. You have to pick 1 goalkeeper, 1 defender, 1 midfielder, 1 forward, and 1 extra outfield player. All players are scored on every aspect of their game, from things like how many passes they make, how many duels they win or lose, how many goals they score, and how many assists they get. So in goal, I'm going for David Raya. I think he's going to keep a clean sheet at Shakhtar Donetsk. In defence, I'm going for PSV's Boskagli because he is the highest scoring consistent defender in the game. In midfield, I'm going for Florian Wirtz. I think he's going to get an assist away at Brest in the Champions League. Up top, we're going for Big Vic. There's no way he is not scoring a goal against Sturm Graz. And for my extra player, I'm going for Ryan Cherki because he's been in superb form the past few weeks and he's definitely going to score a goal or get an assist against Besiktas. His card is also yellow because I've actually bought him in Sorare's Pro modes. but that means I get a 20% bonus on his score. You can also choose one of your 5 players to be your captain, so I'm going to choose Rayan Cherki to give him an extra 50% bonus to his score. So if you want to enter, you can sign up for Sorare via the link in my description. If you sign up via my link, you also get $50 in credits to buy some cards as well. And with that, you could start to build a pretty nice team for Sorare's pro modes. But more on those another time. Anyway, I am very confident in my team. You may think you've got better ball knowledge than me, so if you build a better team than this, let me know on Twitter so I can laugh at you. But if you do end up winning the top prize, please let me come with you to El Clasico. I am desperate to win that prize. That is such an incredible experience. Heading into the 2031-32 season, we take part in the East Asian Football Federation Championships, which is literally just 3 games against China, South Korea, and North Korea. This time I can actually play my preferred team as we look to play it out from the back. Kubo scored 6 minutes into our game against China to give us the lead, before PSG's Nikita Bita scored in the second half to secure a 2-1 win. Centre-back Takahashi scored a beautiful goal from the edge of the area that any striker would have been proud of, let alone a centre-back. Actual striker Izumi then scored in the second half to beat South Korea 2-1. The other centre-back Asai scored from a corner before both centre-mids found the back of the net in the final 5 minutes of the match to beat North Korea 3-0. Meaning we win the East Asian Football Federation Championship. This feels even less significant than the UEFA Nations League. We also aren't taking part in World Cup qualifying, because Japan are hosting the tournament, which means there's not really a whole lot for me to do right now. So we actually enter the 2032-33 season pretty quickly. In October, we took on Malaysia and won the game 13-3, which would make more sense as a rugby score than a football scoreline. But we were brought back down to earth when we lost 2-0 away at Mexico. Heading into March, we played Sri Lanka in the Asian Cup qualifying, and as you would expect, we battered them 8-1 to get our qualifying campaign underway. But then we were humbled by Luxembourg as the tiny European nation beat us 2-0. A very frustrating defeat. We got back to winning ways against Singapore in our next Asian Cup qualifier with a thumping 5-0 victory. And we also scored 5 goals in our next game. But that match is way more impressive, because we scored 5 goals in a friendly away from home in Brazil. Actually against Brazil, not some low-ranked nation at a neutral venue in Brazil, the actual Brazilian national football team. Now you may need to ignore the fact that Brazil scored 4 goals of their own. Our defence wasn't great, but we did just beat Brazil in Brazil 5-4. So because Luxembourg beat us, does that mean Luxembourg are better than Brazil? But they were the only 6 games that we played this season. It turns out without World Cup qualifying, we don't get any replacement friendlies because every other country is playing World Cup qualifiers. So we start our 10th season with a 6-1 victory over Bangladesh and a 4-1 victory away at Singapore. Those results mean we've qualified for the Asian Cup with 2 games to spare. But now our attention shifts to the 2034 World Cup, which of course we're hosting. Iran are one of the best international sides in Asia. So when we beat them 4-2 in a friendly in Iran, it really boosted our confidence. Then we got some practice in a competitive environment by once again taking part in the East Asian Football Federation Championship. We beat North Korea 4-1, China 4-1, and then South Korea 3-0 to technically lift our second trophy in charge of Japan. So I think we're entering the World Cup and Asian Cup year in pretty good shape. Just forget about the losses to Mexico and Luxembourg, please. Don't think about those. But we are ranked 17th in the world, which also makes us the highest ranked nation in Asia, so it's not impossible for us to win both the World Cup and Asian Cup. We've been put into pot 1 for the World Cup draw, meaning we avoid the best teams in the world. From pot 2, I want either islands because they're pretty easy to beat, or our former nation Ivory Coast, but we get Senegal instead. From the teams that we can get in pot 3, I think Canada would be the easiest for us to beat, but we get the perennial dark horses, Turkey. And in pot 4, I'd quite like to avoid Greece or Paraguay. So obviously, we get given Paraguay. I think it could have been worse, but we do have a big job on our hands if we want to make it out of the group. We opened the tournament against Paraguay, and we defended an early free kick from a South American as well and got on the counter. as we outnumbered the defenders and played a pass through to the open Arai, who somehow put his shot over the crossbar. And that was literally the only highlight of the first half. Unless it's Brazil, we do struggle against teams from South and North America. Early in the second half, we put Paraguay under pressure as we passed the ball around patiently, waiting for an opening, which came down the near side. A slightly wayward cross eventually found its way to right back Oda, who couldn't keep his shot down. Instead, Paraguay held onto the ball well and played a pass over the top of our defence, giving their striker a one-on-one opportunity, which he buried. But we were given a lifeline when Julio Enciso was sent off for a second yellow card. Instantly we went on the attack, but Tabita couldn't get his shot in the back of the net. But our pressure finally paid off. Yoshioka had so much space to pick out a low cross, which ricocheted off a Paraguayan defender and into the back of the net. With 10 minutes to go, we really turned the screw, coming forward with pace down the far side. Substitute Sakamoto found the other substitute Ito, whose cross was met by Azumi, who gave us the lead. Now it was time to shut up shop and see the game out as 2-1 winners. That was a real let-off. 8 minutes in against Senegal and centre-back Asai was shoved over, meaning we were given a penalty. Izumi scored it, and that opened the floodgates for us. We scored our second just before half-time, before extending further from a corner early in the second half. Our fourth goal actually went down as an own goal, which feels pretty harsh, but Tabita scored not long after to make it 5-0. Senegal then did get a consolation goal, but in the 88th minute, it didn't really matter. It also means us and Turkey have qualified from the group. So controversially, I rested most of our lineup against Turkey to rest the starters for the knockouts. We came back from 3-1 down at half time to look like we were going to win 4-3, only to concede in the 95th minute. But the draw means we top the group and in theory have an easier route to the final. It certainly started that way as we were drawn against Algeria in the second round. Takashi Asai scored from a corner before Izumi scored a great goal from open play to win the match 2-0. But our prize is a game against 5th in the world Spain, which seems like an impossible challenge, especially with 2 starters suspended for picking up multiple yellow cards. But because we didn't see a highlight until the 39th minute, I assume that means we're playing pretty well. So well in fact, that we should have taken the lead. I don't know how we missed. So we thought we were heading into half-time with the scores level. But in the 47th minute, Lamine Yamal scored a really tidy goal to give Spain the lead in what's been a really close game. But in the second half, Spain were able to flex their muscles and start to dominate. With some great passing that we just couldn't quite break up, led to a shot from the edge of the area coming off our defender and into the back of the net. But we had a lifeline in the 80th minute when Gavi was given a straight red card and we almost scored from the free kick that followed. But from the resulting corner, we did actually score as centre mid Ichanos placed his shot perfectly. So we switched our tactics slightly to try and play some expansive football to stretch the 10 men of Spain. And it worked. Yoshioka had so much room down the near side to pick out a perfect cross to our substitute Arai, who got us back on level terms in the 90th minute, sending the game to extra time. This was our chance to take control, but Spain sat back well and nullified us. And in the 111th minute, Spain had a rare chance to come forwards. Jose knocked the ball down to Fermin, who scored from point blank range. But we always play our best when we're on the back foot. Matoba beautifully dummied the ball, allowing Miyazaki all the room in the world to run into the penalty area and score the goal to take the game to penalties. The issue is though, I've already taken off a lot of our best penalty takers, and it showed when we missed the first spot kick. Pedri stepped up for Spain, but had his effort saved. So this allowed Matoba to give us the lead, but Rafa Marin equalised for Spain. Sakamoto sent the keeper the wrong way, but so did Medina for Spain. Miyazaki, who got us to the shootout, scored his penalty, but so did Nico, meaning we have to score our 5th kick, which is exactly what we did. If Spain now failed to score, we win. So up steps Fermin, who keeps Spain in the game. Now we're in sudden death, and we just score as the ball goes in off the crossbar, but Spain keep the pressure on us with a goal. We then score the perfect penalty into the bottom right corner of the goal, but Spain's effort wasn't too bad either. Kondo then put his spot kick perfectly into the top right corner, piling on the pressure for Spain, but also our goalkeeper, who pushes the ball into the back of his own net. Yoshioka then buries his efforts with our 9th penalty, but so does Rios for Spain. So up steps centre-back Asai, who had his effort pushed onto the crossbar. If the Spain keeper now scores, Spain win. I'm absolutely heartbroken. We played so well. You know what really makes me cross though? If we'd been on the other side of the World Cup draw, I reckon we could have won the whole thing. Because Mexico went on to beat Ireland in the final. Genuinely, what in the Football Manager is this? Plus, most of Ireland's starting lineup are all real players who are still clinging on to life in their early 30s. I am genuinely baffled by this. But we need to regain focus and switch our attention to the Asian Cup, which is taking place in 6 months' time. We've been handed a very kind group of Uzbekistan, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. If we can win the Asian Cup, that's the 2nd trophy won in our quest to complete the International Hexagon Challenge. So we open our account with an 8-0 thrashing of Kuwait, which lulled us into a false sense of security. Because I rotated the entire team for our match against the UAE, where they took the lead 48 minutes in. And it only got worse for us when they doubled their lead just 4 minutes later with a very similar looking goal. But we play well under pressure, and we got a goal back in the 70th minute, and then with the clock ticking down, we scored the equaliser in the 88th minute to earn a draw. Learning from our mistakes, we went back to the first string team against Uzbekistan and won 4-1, letting out a sigh of relief when the full-time whistle was blown. We topped the group on goal difference and head to the knockouts. Here we're up against Oman and feeling pretty happy that we're on the opposite side of a draw to South Korea, Australia, Iran and reigning champions Iraq. We got the job done in the first half against Oman, as we scored 4 goals before the break to take control of the game. We then rotated quite a lot at half time to ensure players were well rested and to avoid yellow card suspensions. But that did allow Oman to score a consolation goal. But the win sets us up against Qatar in the quarterfinals as we get to the business end of the tournament. Qatar might be hosting the tournament, but we didn't let the majority Qatar crowd get to us. We showed no mercy as we scored 3 goals without reply to reach the semi-finals of the Asian Cup, where we've got a rematch against the United Arab Emirates, who we drew with in the group stage. This time I will not be rotating the team much. You see, we have 3 key players on yellow card warnings. If they pick one up in the semi-final, they'll miss the final. So I'm dropping all of them for this game to make sure they can play the final, which I'm pretty sure we're going to get to. Right? Well, it was a cagey game of few chances, with neither team looking like they were going to score. To get a goal, it would take a moment of madness. Like when our goalkeeper hoofed the ball all the way up the pitch to Azumi, who was totally unmarked, allowing him to bear down on goal and put his effort past the keeper. He really should have had a second goal when he capitalised on a defensive error, but instead put his effort wide of the mark. At least we have the lead at the break. But the UAE, who I have really underestimated, battled hard in the second half, not allowing us to get clean shots on goal or decent crosses into the middle. So whenever we did get a chance, we snatched at it and didn't trouble the keeper. But in the 83rd minute, after a series of substitutions, Yuhei Ito broke through the UAE defence and scored the decisive second goal we needed. And we did need it, because moments later, the UAE split our defence and scored a goal of their own. So at this point, I chose to shut the game down and see things out. But it also helped when we were given a penalty following an infringement from a corner, which we scored to give ourselves back a 2-goal lead. That gave us confidence and destroyed the UAE, because we won the ball straight from kickoff and scored a great goal on the break to win the match 4-1 and get ourselves to the Asian Cup final, where we'll be taking on Australia, who we turned down the chance to manage to take the Japan job instead. So actually, it all comes down to this game to decide if we made the right choice 4 years ago. In the first minute, we had a great chance to score following a cleared corner, but the eventual shot was sent behind for another corner, and this time we got closer. The ball was cleared off the line and away, but we were able to recycle the ball out to Yoshioka, who put in a low cross, deflected off a defender into Azumi, who just couldn't miss. But our joy quickly turned into despair when centre-back Takahashi was sent off for a second yellow card in the 21st minute. But if anything, that galvanised our players. With Australia sitting in a compact low block, it gives us loads of room out wide to pick out the perfect cross for Azumi to double our lead. And Australia didn't learn from that, once again leaving acres of space for Yoshioka to exploit and put a ball into the 6-yard area for Azumi to score his hat-trick. As a result, Australia began to take more risks to get back into the game, allowing us to steal the ball off them and punish them on the counter, making it 4-0 at half-time with just 10 men on the pitch. The second half was much of the same. We had plenty of chances to attack and came close to scoring more goals. Azumi denied his 4th by the crossbar. Eventually though, we did get a 5th. Ito was allowed way too much space to find Tabita, who got a yard of space away from his marker and got a shot off into the back of the net. Australia were able to get themselves a consolation goal from a free kick and then a second from a corner in the 90th minute, but by that point, the game was a foregone conclusion. We lift the Asian Cup trophy above our heads and claim the second trophy en route to the International Hexagon Challenge. But we still have 4 more left to win. So, where do we go next? Currently, the only jobs available are in Asia, so I'm not interested in them. But the Gold Cup is in 6 months' time, and qualifying for the Euros ends in 12 months' time, at which point there should be quite a few jobs available for teams that haven't lived up to their expectations. So we're going to find out where we're going to go next in the next episode. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you're the first to know when the next episode of the International Hexagon Challenge releases.